Hi guys, so for today we're going to continue the ranking series, and that's with Jeepers Creepers franchise. I know there's only 3 movies in the franchise or in the series, so it's going to be a shorter video than normal. And before we begin, yes, I know the history of Victor Salva, just like I know the history of Roman Polanski, Woody Allen, Stan Lee. I know about the history behind Victor Salva, but we're not here to talk about Victor Salva or what happens behind the scenes. We're here just to rank the movies themselves. And there's no surprise, in at number 3 is Jeepers Creepers 3. I done a review for this a few weeks back because it just came out at the end of December 2017, and I've rewatched it since then, and it doesn't have much rewatchability factor. To be honest, I actually liked it a little bit less than I did the first time. The first time I watched it was okay. The second time I watched it, I actually didn't like it much, to be honest. I thought Stan Shaw and Meg Foster were pointless in this movie. I love Stan Shaw, I love him in the Monster Squad, but he just felt like a pointless character in this movie, as did Meg Foster. Meg Foster's character was not only disappointing, but she was confusing as well. She brought a lot more confusion to the movie than needed. I know that Kenny and Darla, they were trying to attach Kenny and Darla's characters to this, but that was more confusing for me as well. Because I genuinely believed that Kenny was a black male in Jeepers Creepers 1, that's what he looked like to me, but then they made him a white character in this, so I don't know if that was just my confusion or they've just completely forgotten what colour Kenny was in the first one. I thought the special effects in this movie were terrible. I know they were on a budget for a reason that we won't discuss, but there was no reason that it couldn't have been a little more practical than more special effects. If you don't have the money for special effects, then just go practical. Where'd you get those creepers? So in at number 2 is Jeepers Creepers 2. This was set in the same spring as Jeepers Creepers 1. It's set within the 23-day period that the creeper comes out, and this time he's targeting a school bus full of high school kids, jocks and cheerleaders. So that's basically the premise of this movie. It's set in one area, which I liked. I liked the whole isolation in horror movies, and it done it pretty well in this one. I liked the whole isolation of the school bus being in the middle of the road. No one's coming, they can't get access to any signal on their phones.
Disabled out on East 9. Anyone read me?
So I like the isolation of this movie, and I liked the fact that they explored the creeper a little bit more in this one, but not as much as they did in Jeepers Creepers 3. Jeepers Creepers 3 exploration of the creeper was unnecessary, but in this one we wanted to know a little bit more. Not enough to know everything, but just enough to tease us with us wanting to know more, if you know what I mean. I love the start of this movie in the cornfield and the field, and I love Ray Wise's character, and I know his son gets taken away by the creeper. So him and his other son, his older son, are out looking and hunting for the creeper. So I like that kind of side story as well. So even though we were concentrating on this high school bus, we had this vigilante guy who was after the creeper, and he looked like he could take the creeper because he was just so determined to get revenge. I think the ending of Jeepers Creepers 2 as well set up a really good trilogy, which, well, what could have been a good trilogy, but they messed it up with Jeepers Creepers 3. That was very disappointing because Jeepers Creepers 2 ending was a good ending. It was an ending where you would accept it to be the very last movie, but you'd also accept them to do a sequel to Jeepers Creepers 2. Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? And then at number 1 is quite simply just Jeepers Creepers. Now I watched this movie not knowing anything about it, which was a good thing for me because trailers back in 2001 were not hard to come by, but people didn't really bother about them online. The only time you really saw trailers was if they were on TV at night, or you went to the cinema and you seen trailers at the start of the movie. That's all. So I didn't know much or anything about this movie. I knew that it was a horror movie, and I thought it was going to be in the vein of Scream and H2O, Halloween, Friday the 13th, so I wasn't expecting to see a monster halfway through this. So for those of you who have seen the movie, already knowing what's to come, maybe you didn't enjoy it as much as not knowing anything. So I would say that get into this movie not knowing anything, that's the best way to go. Now there was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, it was season 3 episode 23 I believe, and it was about this couple who go around the countryside and they read license plates, play a game with the license plates, and they're driving across country, and then they see this guy dumping a body wrapped in a sheet down, not a well, but down in a ditch basically. The same kind of setting as Jeepers Creepers. If you look up the episodes, A lot of people know about it now anyway, but look up the episode, it's just so eerie, and I think that that's where most of Jeepers Creepers inspiration comes from, is that one segment of that episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
We were driving south on Snow Prairie Road, and all of a sudden a van was just on us and passed. One of the things we do when we're out driving around is we make names out of license plates.
As we approached an old schoolhouse, I saw a man behind it, and he had what appeared to be a bloody sheet. As we continued passing the school, I saw the van parked between the building and a big tank.
Minutes later, the van pulled up behind them again and rode their bumper for nearly 2 miles. They returned to the schoolyard to search for the sheet. Partially stuffed into a small animal hole was a blood-soaked blanket.
There's definitely blood, all right. Let's go call the police.
And like we all know, there's two halves to this movie. The first half, which is a kind of isolated road movie between a brother and sister, and then it's the monster part and the kind of finding out what the creeper is and where he comes from. I liked both aspects of that to this movie. I liked the first half because I liked the brother and sister's relationship. I just think that Justin Long's acting in this movie was very, very sincere and realistic. The way he acts in this movie is the way that I would act if I seen things that he saw. So I think his acting in it was great. And once we find out that it is a monster and not a person, I think that was a wow factor for me. I thought, well, this is excellent. It's going places. It's going somewhere where back in 2001 they didn't dare to do, because monster movies were finished. It was more teen slashers. So I think that they went a really brave way, a brave route, and it paid off in the end.
You know the part in scary movies where somebody does something really stupid and everybody hates them for it? This is it.
So that's my ranking for the Jeepers Creepers series, guys. I know it wasn't very long and it wasn't very informative because there is only 3. I'd like to see a proper sequel to Jeepers Creepers 2. And yeah, set it 23 years later, because the first and second one were set in 2001. So if you'd done a proper sequel 23 years later, you'd be looking at the year 2024. So if they bring one out in the next couple of years, it's not going to be that far off anyway. So you don't have to do flying cars or robots or anything like that. You just set it in modern day, because it will come out maybe around about modern day. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.